Hi, I'm Gilda, and welcome back to the Restoring Integrity video series. Although I am not a plaintiff, I am in support of this case as a concerned member of Abyssinian. By way of background, I'm a longtime member of the Abyssinian Baptist Church, having served on the Archives and History Ministry for nearly 15 years as a member and former officer, as well as the Communications Committee to which I was appointed by the late Reverend Butts. On Sunday, June 23, 2024, last year, what was presented to the congregation as a formal pastoral election fell drastically short of the standards required by several of our church's own bylaws. I will talk today about one of the bylaws concerning the requirement of a church meeting as part of the pastoral election process, a meeting that did not take place last June. As it stands, and this is very important to understand, in addition to a new pastor needing to receive a majority vote of the full congregation, our bylaws also require a pastoral election to have as part of the process, quote, a duly called meeting with church members in good standing, where quorum, at least 200 members, has been established, end quote. This is also important. Per the church bylaws, Article 5, Section 3, all church meetings, quote, must be held in the Abyssinian Baptist Church in the city of New York, 132-142 Odell Clark Place. Let me repeat this. In addition to a new pastor needing to receive a majority vote of the full congregation, our bylaws also require a pastoral election to have as part of the process, quote, a duly called meeting with church members in good standing where quorum, at least 200 members, has been established, end quote. And per the church bylaws, all church meetings, quote, must be held in the Abyssinian Baptist Church in the city of New York, 132-142 Odell Clark Place. However, based on the official election results posted briefly online by the church, 87 church members voted at the poll site on the church premises during the election. That means fewer than 200 members required for a meeting quorum were physically present on site to vote that day. In the Pulpit Search Committee Vice Chair's sworn affidavit, which is on file with the court as part of this case, number 25 of the affidavit states, quote, in or around July 2023, the PSC leadership team began to discuss the voting process and the requirements under the bylaws, including the calling of a special meeting, the threshold for voting, and the requirements related to location of voting. And in number 26 of the Search Committee Vice Chair's affidavit, it reads, quote, in or around August 2023, the former chair provided another update to the congregation on progress of the search, which update stated that the PSC would conduct visits in the fall of 2023 with lead candidates to hear them preach and to interact firsthand, which did not occur at the time, a comprehensive background check, which would be conducted including psychological evaluation, which psychological evaluation did not occur at all, and I quote, that a special meeting of the congregation would be called in compliance with the bylaws to elect a new pastor, which did not occur at all, end quote. Finally, this is also extremely important to know on this topic. The Search Committee Vice Chair's affidavit notes in number 44 something many members will remember from the February 2024 annual meeting. I was at the meeting as well and vividly remember this discussion. The Search Committee Vice Chair wrote in number 44 from their affidavit, in February 2024, the church held its annual meeting, and at such meeting, where a quorum had been established, the chair and I presented information to the congregation regarding the search process and virtual voting to be considered by members present. Following the presentation, a motion was made to waive a provision in the bylaws requiring that voting happen on premise in order to permit electronic voting. The congregation asked questions in response to the motion, including with respect to vendors under consideration, what the electronic voting process would entail, security and validity of voting process, voting threshold, among others. I responded to certain questions and noted that the waiver was simply to permit electronic voting rather than to mandate it, and that if the PSC did engage a vendor, electronic voting would be in addition to an in-person meeting and vote which would still be held for purposes of discussing and voting upon the candidate in accordance with the bylaws. The motion was ultimately approved by a majority of the congregation, end quote. That was the PSC vice chair. And in summary, very important, number 56 from the Vice Chair's affidavit, quote, during my time on the PSC through May 2024, the PSC never contemplated that there would be a vote for the pastor without there being a meeting. And in fact, I discussed with the acting trustee chair several times the importance of robust discussion from a governance perspective and whether it was advisable to open the meeting to online members. In the end, a vote for the pastor was purportedly held. However, upon information and belief, the vote took place without a meeting as required by the bylaws and without a quorum present or a motion to be voted upon by the congregation. Now, I know that was a lot of information, but this is really easy to understand. Let's get down to brass tacks. Why is this important? This critical failure to meet these bylaws requirements means that no legally viable church meeting took place and therefore no valid election occurred. Let me be clear. This is not about personalities or preferences. This is about process, principle, and our shared commitment to doing things decently and in order as we are called to do in Scripture and in the covenant we uphold as a church body. We cannot allow procedural violations to erode the spiritual and administrative foundation of Abyssinian, a church, our church, that has stood as a beacon of truth, justice, and Black excellence for more than 2 centuries. Our bylaws are not optional, they are binding. And when they are ignored, every member's voice is diminished. Our governance must reflect our values: transparency, accountability, and respect for the collective wisdom of the congregation. So today, I urge us all to pause and reflect. And this is not just for Abyssinian members. This is for anyone who belongs to a civic or community-based institution, a faith or academic-based institution, or is even a member of an HOA for your condo, co-op, or housing community, because bylaws are the governing principles that drive how that entity is to operate and, very important, exist. Let us all ask ourselves, in this case, what kind of church do we want to be? One that honors its own rules or one that bypasses them when inconvenient? The pastoral leadership of Abyssinian or any faith-based institution is too sacred a responsibility to be decided under questionable and deeply flawed procedures. For the sake of our legacy and our future, we, the entire congregation, must get this right. The late Congressman and activist John Lewis said, "Get into good trouble, necessary trouble." This, for all of us, is good and necessary trouble. Coming up next, we will take a look back at the June 16, 2024 church meeting that to this day has a motion on the floor concerning the disbanding of the PSC and ceasing the pastoral election in favor of restarting the process with the search committee and conducting this process entirely according to the bylaws. This motion, which according to our bylaws which follow Robert's Rules of Order, is, quote, unfinished business, end quote. This motion was ignored and has never been addressed again. Stay tuned.